You just don't know when to quit.
Yeah, I've been told that before.
Wow. Are you guys seeing this?
I need a weapon.
Hello there.
You with you?
I thought yours was new.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Slav's Free Talk Podcast, where we talk all things pulp culture. That's right. Today, we're going to talk about a plethora of different things. We got things like Lilo and Stitch, Jurassic World, Sony Spider-Verse, and we're going to talk a little bit of horror. So, those of you who are horror fans, yes, I got a little story for horror fans out there. We got Transformers, we got Batman, and James Bond, as well as Superman. We have so much to talk about today in so little time. So let's dive right in. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Slav's Free Talk Podcast. I am so happy to see you all here. And yes, I know we're just 11 days away, as Trayvon is saying here, 11 days away from Superman. That's right, 11 days. That's wild. We're just 11 days away. Man, it's like, feels like we've been waiting an eternity for this movie, but hey, it's right around the corner. But how's it going, Trayvon? Glad to see you here. Critic Chris says, LOL, horror been going downhill for me. Donovan, it's really looking like Jurassic World is falling flat on its face. Yeah, it's not looking good. Not looking good at all. But yeah, we got a lot of stuff to discuss today. We really do. But I'm glad to see you all here. Again, I do want to mention, because it is Monday, so don't forget that after this live stream here, all members will get to jump over to our member-only stream. And this week, we're going to talk Snyder Cult delusions. That's right. We are going to discuss some of the issues that the Snyder Cult are dealing with right now. It's going to be a little bit of fun, I'm sure. It'll probably be about a good 15-minute long discussion. But those of you who are members can jump on over there. And to be a member, it's just $2.99 a month. That helps support me and the channel, and it gets you some free content, or not free content, but additional content. Not free, obviously, but it's some additional content every Monday after the main show, as well as, occasionally I will throw out member-only videos as well. So be on the lookout for those, but that will be later after this episode. Okay, let's dive in to the first story. I hope you all are ready. So, the first one I want to talk about is Lilo and Stitch. We won't talk too long about this, but Lilo and Stitch has now crossed the $940 million global box office. We knew this was going to make all the money. We did. We knew it was going to make a buttload of money. Like I said before, I knew it was all about how quickly could it reach that $1 billion. Was it going to reach it by the end of June? Was it going to reach it? Was it going to have to go into July? What was it going to do? Like, how fast was it going to hit that $1 billion? I think if things keep moving forward, if they keep it in theaters for another month or so, which it probably is going to be in there, it's going to hit the $1 billion. It absolutely will. The thing is, what does that mean for the longevity of this franchise, the brand? Well, they announced just the other day that Lilo and Stitch 2 is now in development. They are moving forward with a sequel to Lilo and Stitch. Look, the first one was good. I get that they took some liberties. I get that they decided to change the core aspects of what Lilo and Stitch was about. I get it. And while I disagree with essentially doing that, it was still an enjoyable film. I still had fun with it. I still laughed. I still loved taking my kids to see it and seeing their expressions and having fun, with that movie. I'm going to be curious to see where they take the sequel, because at this point, I don't think they're going to do Stitch has a glitch or anything like that, like they've done it with the animation. I think this is going to be a new original story that they go with. So it'll be interesting to see how they move forward with the franchise, and I'm excited to see that. But again, it was, we knew this movie was going to make all the money. We knew this was going to make all the money. It was going to. It was inevitable. It was inevitable. But I'm excited. So let me know your thoughts about this in the comments. Are you excited about the sequel? Are you surprised that it's made this much money? Do you think it should have made more? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. All right, what are you saying over here? Movie Talk Now says Stitch versus Batman. Who wins? Oh, Stitch hands down. Hands down. Oh, no, but if Batman has prep time. I'm just kidding. Donovan says, to me, How to Train Your Dragon was the superior live-action adaptation. I still haven't seen that yet, and I've heard from a lot of people that they really like that. And, what's funny is both animated movies, Lilo and Stitch and How to Train Your Dragon, was directed by the same exact director, the animated ones. And it just so happens that How to Train Your Dragon, though, utilized the original director from the animated version. And you can see how if you stay true to and keeping those involved from the original and everything like that, that you can probably get a better outcome with the live action. I haven't seen it yet. I want to, but yeah, it's no surprise. I've heard a lot of people say that they really, really enjoyed How to Train Your Dragon. I didn't think that it would surpass Lilo and Stitch just because Stitch. I mean, little kids love Stitch. I could probably walk around my house and find no less than 12 little Stitch stuffed animals, no less than them, just from the girls that live in my house. And I mean, that's just how it is. So because of that alone, I knew Lilo and Stitch was going to do far better than How to Train Your Dragon. Trayvon says, honestly, I'm hoping Lilo and Stitch makes $1 billion to smack WDW Pro in the face with their horse crap that Blockbusters was dead because they weren't billionaires. I didn't hear about that, but who knows? I mean, people sometimes just talk out their ass sometimes. Even I have been wrong about things in the past. I mean, come on. I was saying that the Batman 2, I didn't think it was going to come, but here we are, here we are. Let's see. Donovan Martin says they said the sequel will be an original story. Exactly. Trayvon says, remember when Lilo and Stitch was one of the last hurrahs for Michael Eisner as Disney CEO? Yes. Why did my TV just turn on? Give me 1 second. TV turn on with Apple Music. I don't exactly want the music to start playing in the middle of a show. There we go. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, Michael Eisner, man, that's so long ago. Where do you think Disney would be right now if Michael Eisner was still in charge or was in charge? That's an interesting question for sure. Like, think about that. Things were very, very different back then. Very different. Trayvon Purnell says Batman would beat Deadpool. Movie Talk Now says we're about to find out. In Deadpool vs. Batman coming soon. Well, I already did that, Movie Talk Now. I have that up on my thing. And I believe people were they leaning towards Deadpool? I don't remember. I gotta take a look. All right. Donovan says Stitch turned on the TV. Probably. Wouldn't be surprised. No, probably somebody just said the wake word for Apple and turned it on somehow. Movie Talk Now says, can we say Aladdin 2 is in production? Hell no. I feel like Disney confirmed that 2 years ago. Well, let's not forget, they confirmed that Aladdin 2 was in development, and then you had Slapgate with Will Smith, and then everybody turned on Will Smith. So I wouldn't say it's in production hell. I just think that anything and everything that was in any kind of development with Will Smith at that time just got put on hold. And I don't think Disney's ready to trust Will Smith yet. I don't think they're a company that's willing to trust him. Whereas like Bad Boys, whatever, you can do a couple movies with him and nobody's going to care that he slaps somebody. But a kid's movie where he's playing a lovable blue genie, yeah, they're going to want to not have that, that slapgate on him at all. So I wouldn't be surprised if it never happened. Or the movie never happens. That's what I should say. Although I did like the first one, with the exception of the Jasmine song that they added. I wasn't a big fan of that. All right, let's move on. We got so much to talk about. Jurassic World Rebirth debuts with a 54% on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, I did look just a little bit ago. I think it bumped up to 58%. Just actually, let's just take a look. Let's just take a look. Jurassic World Rebirth, Rotten Tomatoes. There we go. Let's just take a look. Because, oh wait, that's the original. I don't want the original Jurassic World. What are you doing? Let's just do this. It's at 57%. So it's jumped up a little bit. Jumped up to 57% with 86 reviews. Actually, let's take a look at some of these reviews. All right. Now, I know there's a lot of people who sit there and say, look, don't trust Rotten Tomatoes. You should never trust Rotten Tomatoes. I look at it this way. I don't sit there and say, just look at the score. Don't just look at the 57% and say, oh, it's 57%. I'm not going to watch it. I now, like, over time, I've kind of grown my opinion with Rotten Tomatoes in quite a way. There was a point in time when I hated Rotten Tomatoes, like just plain out hated it. And then there's some people that are like that still. The way I look at it is you got 50% is like half. Anything over 50%, that means more than 50% of the people enjoyed it. Anything under 50% means more than 50% didn't like it. Anything less than 50%. So that's what you're looking at. I then say, take a look at some of what the critics are saying. All right. You don't need to go through all of them, but just get kind of an idea. But still go see the movie. If you're interested in seeing the movie, still go see the movie. Don't let these critics, don't let the score sway you, but just let it temper your expectations or give you an idea of what your expectations should be going to the film. So this here, you have from Paul Klein from Film Hounds says, as it might be the best sequel to a Jurassic film that Steven Spielberg didn't direct, it reminds us that there is an awe and wonder to dinosaurs that turns even the most hardened adult into a little kid. He gave it a 4 out of 5. Lauren Bradshaw, a fangirl freakout, says Jurassic World Rebirth is one of the most underwhelming installments of the Jurassic Park franchise yet, missing the spark of what makes these movies great. Carla Hay of Culture Max, Jurassic World Rebirth should be called Jurassic World Rehash. It delivers plenty of action, but it borrows heavily from the plot of Jurassic World 3. And that's not the first time I've heard that. I've heard that from quite a few people who reviewed this, with no real innovation or surprises regarding who lives, who dies, and what the dinosaurs do. Eric Goldman, who gives it a more positive review, says, after a rough and clunky start introducing its characters, Rebirth turns goofy but fun once the dinosaurs arrive. Much like most of the Jurassic sequels, would I like more at this point? Sure, but this is still delivering what was worked for this series. Let's see. Peter Sobs is good, but I can't say his name. The kind of film that feels like it was made only because Universal wanted to add an extra $1 billion or so into their coffers, but didn't want to expand much creative effort along the way. Now, Alonso from Film Verdict, he's a top critic, says, doesn't go anywhere particularly unexpected, but the cliffhangers are choice. So I said this on X today when the Rotten Tomatoes score first came out. I'm not surprised that it's sitting around 50-60%. I'm not. Now, what I am shocked about is that people are expecting that this movie was going to be better. Let's not forget that this film was fast-tracked. And when I say it was fast-tracked, this thing was announced, cast, shot in a year, less than a year. Let's not forget that. This thing was announced in like April of last year. It was cast and then it was shot and then basically all edited within a year and then released this this coming week. Like that's how fast they got moving with this movie. So for me, the fact that it's just at like sitting between 50-60% critic score, that doesn't surprise me. And there's some people that I've seen that are actually kind of shocked, like, oh, really? Now, let's also not forget that the last two Jurassic World films, I think the last one was like around a 40%. The one before that, I think, was like around 50%, maybe. So they weren't doing too well in themselves, but honestly, this is what happens when you rush movies. This is exactly what happens. Now, I think the audience score, I think, is going to sit around 70%. I do. Now, I bring that up because I do want to look at the other Jurassic films. All right. So the last one, Dominion, was at a 29%. I thought it was 29%, but the fans, the audiences have it at 77%. All right. That's not terrible. And then you have Fallen Kingdom. That one was much worse. 47% critics, 48% audience score. That one was more in line with one another. So I honestly think, I really do think that we're probably going to see the audience scores hit around 70%. I do. But we'll see. I think, we'll see in about a week span of time where the audience is going to sit with this movie. It is interesting, though. Very little marketing. Jurassic World 3, because a lot of people are saying that it's a lot like Jurassic World 3 or Jurassic Park 3. Let's see if I can find 3. How it pulls up? No. Does 3 even exist in here? Jurassic Park 3. There it is. Let's see. What is the audience? The audience score for that is 37%. So the fact that it's very similar to that, that might not bode very well for this movie. I don't know. We'll see. This is interesting. I just wanted to kind of go over this because, look, and I'm not sitting here saying like this is going to be amazing for Superman or anything like that, because I want this movie to be good. I want it to do well. I want films to do well. The fact of the matter is they rushed this. They rushed it and they should not have rushed it. This is why I said months and months ago that they should have delayed this. They should have pushed it back. They should have done something like that because you can't rush movies. You need to take your time to make movies. This movie's going to make money. It absolutely is going to make money. It's going to make good money. Will it hit the $1 billion mark? That's to be seen. But it will make a lot of money. It'll definitely hit that $800-900 million mark. Will it make $1 billion? That's to be seen. It depends on how the audience views it. But it's going to make money. And that's all that matters to these studios anymore. And that's why they're willing to rush films out just to get that money. They don't care how good it is. And shame on them sometimes. Like you just got to think like shame on them. So we'll see what happens. Let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below. All right, what do we got over here? What is going on in the chat? I see a lot of stuff going on. You guys are freaking out. Lawrence Fury's here. He says, "What up? What's going on, Lawrence?" Okay, you guys are. I don't know what you're talking about here. I have no idea. You guys are fighting. Critic Chris says, "Better to let people do thinking for them, if not." Rotten Tomatoes. Okay. Donovan Martin says, "Gareth Edwards is a great visual director, but his stories can be hit or miss." I agree. I do agree. Donovan says they fast-tracked this. They sure did. He says there's no way this is making $1 billion. It feels like this movie just exists, and I don't see any enthusiasm or anticipation surrounding it. Yeah, you're not wrong. Darth Vader's here. He says, hello. Hello, Darth Vader. Hello. Donovan says, this one will not have any legs, especially with Superman coming out the following week. Says, to me, Fallen Kingdom and Dominion are the worst. Universal needs to put this franchise out to pasture. Honestly, I think what they should do is do exactly what they did with Jurassic Park. Wait a bit. After Jurassic Park 3, they waited, 15 years? They waited 15 years, and then they put out another one, and boom, there you had your $1 billion hits. I'm not saying they need to wait 15 years, but maybe wait a while. Maybe wait another 5 to 10 years. Let people want to see Jurassic World or Jurassic Park films again, instead of rushing out and putting out lackluster movies. But that's just my thought. Movie Talk Now says, controversial opinion, Jurassic Park 3 greater than every Jurassic World movie. I actually will... See, I really like the first Jurassic World movie. But I also like Jurassic Park 3. That is a controversial opinion. I do like Jurassic Park 3. I have fun with that movie. I've always had fun with that movie. But I don't know. I think I like the first Jurassic. And I know there's a lot of issues with that first Jurassic World movie, such as Bryce Dallas Howard running around in heels and them letting out the crazy dinosaur just haphazardly because they're terrible at their jobs, all that kind of stuff. I know that. But I do enjoy that movie. I don't know though. You might be right. Jurassic Park 3 might be better. It might be better. Might be. Darth Vader says he forgot this movie was even coming out. Oh man, that's funny. Donovan says, I remember when Sean O'Rourke was like, this will make all the money and Superman will flop. Meanwhile, everything from this is saying that this was just a lesser quality film. Yeah. Very true. Movie Talk Now says, yo, can everyone watching give this video a like? Help out our brother Slav. Yes, hit that like button, everyone. Share it around as well. And if you're not subscribed, subscribe now. Movie Talk Now. I know you're a Godzilla fan there. Movie Talk Now says, Godzilla by Gareth Edwards absolutely sucked. One of the worst Godzilla movies, in my opinion. I enjoyed that Godzilla movie, but it did seem like there was something missing from it. I prefer, what was it? Godzilla, was it King of the Monsters? Was it King of the Monsters? Is that what it was called? I prefer that one more. That was the follow-up to that one, if I'm not mistaken, right? All right. I'm going to move on to the next story. Now, I know that this is from My Time to Shine Hello. I get it, guys. I get it. I know it's My Time to Shine Hello. I'm not a big fan of this person, but this isn't coming from them. It's coming from Daniel RPK. They just shared this. And via Daniel RPK, they say, Sony has canceled all of its planned live-action Spider-Man spin-offs. Everybody just clap. Clap. Clap, clap. Just, I wish I had like hallelujah music or something. Do I have any kind of like hallelujah music? Because I tell you what, like, man, I just, what is this? Love music? Does this work? Work. Just anything. Like, this is the most amazing thing that we could ever hear. I'm not even kidding. Like, the fact of the matter is, the Sony Spider-Verse without Spider-Man was the worst idea in the history of franchise universe IPs that anybody was trying to do. I don't care what anybody says. Those Venom movies were atrocious. Atrocious. I would much rather watch the fantastic fan-fortastic movie over watching those Venom movies. And I don't care what anybody says. That first Venom movie is terrible. It is terrible in any way, shape, or form. There are so many issues with that movie, and everybody just looks past it. Why? Because it's Venom. but it's a terrible movie. There are so many story issues with that movie. I can't stand it. I hate it. I can't stand it. Anyways, then you had Madam Web. You had that terrible movie. You had Craven, which, oh man, Craven, and then Morbius, like movie after movie after movie was just utter trash. Utter trash. Like the fact that they tried and they just kept trying. I guess you give them an A for effort. Like, hey, good job. Like, hey, at least you kept trying, but I don't know what you're doing. Like, yeah. But honestly, like, what was the one thing that everybody wanted? Just give us Spider-Man in this stuff. If you give us Spider-Man, then we'll be happy. Give us Spider. It doesn't need to be Tom Holland Spider-Man. It could have been any Spider-Man. You could have brought Andrew Garfield back. You could have made another Spider-Man. You could have done anything, and people would have been happy to have these films and maybe have a connected universe with a Spider-Man. But they never did it. They just kept pushing forward, trying to make this universe with Spider-Man villains without Spider-Man. It made no sense because there was never any kind of like through line that was like, hey, this is where it could be leading, or hey, this is what it could do. Or, hey, maybe there's this. Oh, wait, no. In the last Venom movie, they had Null. Oh, what are we going to do there? But then they were like, but there's no more Venom. Well, that's the whole point of Null. Like, the whole point of Null is you have to have it. And then they're like, no, but we're not making any more Venom movies. It was just so ridiculous. Like, everything that they did with this franchise that they were doing was ridiculous. It made no. What was it, the end of Morbius? They were like, oh, here's Michael Keaton's Vulture. What? Wait, what? Huh? How? Why? Where did he come from? Why is he there? It was like none of it made sense ever. So if they truly are, if this is not just a rumor, if they truly have canceled this planned live action Spider-Man thing, bravo, Sony. You're making a smart move. Now, I know that there's some people who sit here and think like, oh, this is them lining up to sell the rights back to Marvel Studios. No, they're not going to do that. That would just be dumb of them to do. There is way too much money for Sony to make in holding on to the Spider-Man IP and doing what they're doing with Marvel. Way too much money. I mean, for the longevity. Like, there's way too much money. So they're not going to do that. Unless Marvel was like, here's $4 or $5 billion, which they're not going to pay for Spider-Man. They're not going to do that. So essentially, what I think is probably going to happen is they're going to scrap all this. They're going to do probably the next few Spider-Man things with Marvel. And they may now include Spider-Man and kind of rebuild a Spider-Man universe with Spider-Man. At least I would hope that's what they do. And I don't see why they don't just say, you know what? Let's double dip. Let's double dip. There's no reason why they can't double dip. You know what? Let's make a deal with Marvel Studios. Here's Tom Holland, Spider-Man. Have him. You can use him as much as you want, and we make our money. We'll pay to make it, whatever. But, you know, we're going to make our Spider-Man movies over here. And we're going to do our thing with Spider-Man and his villains over here that's not connected to the MCU. And we're going to do our own thing. It's going to be completely different than what you're doing, but we're going to do our own thing. Why the hell not? Double dip. You have the right, Sony, to do that. You have the ability to do that. If Marvel doesn't want to agree to a deal to have Spider-Man and you do that, then their loss. But why not? Why not give it a shot? But I think this is just the greatest thing, if this is actually happening, to happen to franchise and IPs in such a long time, to just put this thing to rest, just kill it dead. It's done. Kick it to the curb, whatever you want to say, throw it in the dumpster. It's done, thankfully. Let me know your thoughts, though, about all this in the comments. I'd love to hear what you have to say. I know some of you are going to be like, well, I like the Venom movies. I don't care. Venom movies were trash. All of them. All three of them were trash. Not a single good thing came out of those Venom movies. Nothing. Not a single thing. And maybe a controversial take. Some of you may not like me saying that, but I don't care. They're all trash. And then there's no defending any other one of those movies. Madam Web, Craven, Morbius, any of them. You can't defend those movies. It's not possible. It's not possible. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. All right. What are we saying here? Where are we at? Wow, there's a bunch. You guys have a lot to say about this. Jeez. Movie Talk Now says, if I saw Darth Vader clapping, I don't know why, but I'd run. It's true. It's true. Trayvon says, Sony, clap, 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 what Slav just said. Thank you. Yes, a bunch of people clapping here. Donovan says, nature is healing. Yes, yes, it is. Donovan says, I can't watch Fan-Fortastic. Look, it's a terrible movie, but I'd rather watch that than any of these Sony Spider movies. Trayvon says, no, you didn't just say that with a straight face, Slav. I sure did. I sure did. Lawrence Fury says, Madam Web was a nightmare to watch. It was. It was. Joe James, what's going on? Says, the entire Sony slate sucks. True. True. Joe James says, Ben Reilly, Spider-Man Fire. That'd be fun. That'd be fun. I was always a fan of Scarlet Spider growing up. I always thought he had, like in the 90s, I always thought he had like the coolest costume, you know, because it was all like that 90s aesthetic, but you know, that's just me. Andrew Garfield and Lawrence Fury says Andrew Garfield was a fan favorite Sony screw up. Yes, very true. But getting back to like having like use a different Spider-Man. Just use like whether it's Ben Reilly, whether it's Miles Morales, whether it's just whomever, like use a different Spider-Man. You don't need to use Peter Parker in the Sony Spider-Verse. If you want to be different, be different. I don't care at this point. Just do something fun and different. Like give us a Spider-Man though. Movie Talk Now says Nullverse, Craven the Hunter, and Madam Web, the ultimate crossover. Yes, what everybody's been asking for. Yes, absolutely. Donovan says having Nolan, this makes no sense. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, Donovan says this franchise was just on ADHD. Oh man. Donovan says I think they could actually Slav, and there are good arguments for that. Movie Talk Now, their games make so much money alone that it makes the IP worth it. Not to mention that Spider-Verse animated movies, they will never sell Spider-Man. Exactly. They're not going to sell Spider-Man back to MC or to Marvel at all, Marvel Studios at all. It's just pointless. I mean, I get the sentiment. I get people want it to happen. It's just not going to. It's not. Critic Chris says, I wanted Morbius with Blade. I mean, that's the thing. It could still happen if Sony and Marvel Studios still work together. It just depends on how far they want to work together and how closely they want to work together. Bass Reeves says, Slav, you still getting paid by Gunn to say nice things? I've never been paid by Gunn to say anything. I'm just very excited about Superman and very passionate about DC because I'm a big DC fan. So there you have it. Donovan says, you don't know that for sure. I mean, after Spider-Verse 2 and Brand New Day, they could sell it and literally get 5 to 10 times more money than they have gotten from any of these films combined. Again, I still think the longevity, I mean, you take a look and see what they can make for the next 25, 30, 50 years, as opposed to what Marvel would pay them up front right now. And honestly, Marvel doesn't have to pay them anything. Because honestly, do they really need Spider-Man? That's the thing that people don't understand is, does the Marvel Studios MCU need Spider-Man? They don't. They don't. If they wanted to, they could go move forward, continue on with the MCU without Spider-Man, and it would still succeed in the way that it's moving. They don't need Spider-Man. Sony needs Spider-Man. And that's the problem. That's where people don't understand and see this. Everybody thinks that MCU and Marvel Studios need Spider-Man. They don't. They succeeded for almost 10 years without him. They could succeed another 10, 15, 20 years without him. So there's no need for Spider-Man. People just want Spider-Man in the MCU. So that's kind of where it's at. Let's see. Lawrence Fury says, what they need to do is make a good Spider-Man movie with a good film director and screenwriter with no studio interference. Agree. Movie Talk Now. It's illegal to promote anything a certain amount of times without disclosing you're getting paid. Slav is not getting paid. I'm not getting paid. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm completely open to Warner Brothers or DC Studios, sending me some free stuff and things like that. No, I will be completely open to that, but they're not. They're not at all. Bats Reeve says, wallet's closed. Well, that's unfortunate for you. Be miserable then. Trayvon Purnell says, I hate that Madam Web and Craven were ever a thing, but the fact they were both released for Columbia Pictures 100th anniversary makes them even more sickening. Bass Reeves again says Slav is going to be upset when he finds out that Superman movie is for a child. Oh, okay. Trayvon says Sony should take a page out of WB's playbook and create a separate vertical focusing entirely on Superman, someone to oversee the creative side, the other, the business side. Maybe. They could. Trayvon Smith. Hi. I'm here. Hi, Trayvon. How are you? Derpy Entertainment's here. Says in Marvel Comics news, Jim Shooter died. Rest in peace. All right. Moving on. All right. Yes, I don't talk horror very much. And what's interesting is this particular franchise is one that I enjoyed very much so early on in its tenure and its years of being a franchise. I remember seeing the first one when it came out. I didn't see it in theaters, but I saw it when it was on video, like when it came out on DVD. And I remember watching that movie. It had Danny Glover in it, and I was like, man, this movie's like it felt so real. It was something different at the time when it came out. This body horror. This what do they call it? I can't remember it. Traps and stuff. You know what I'm thinking about or trying to say. But it was just this different type of horror movie when it came out, and I was like, this is different. This is interesting, and it's gory, it's grotesque, but it's got this story to it. It's got this madness to it that is really interesting. It's not your typical horror film from the past. It's kind of a little bit of a slasher, kind of a little bit of a thriller. It's really neat. It's really fun and interesting. And then I remember the big twist at the end. Now, I'm somebody that I really pride myself on movies that I don't get fooled by films very easily. I don't. I pride myself on that. Movies, TV shows, things like that. I see the twists, the turns, everything coming from a mile away 99% of the time. And it's because of growing up watching things like Usual Suspects or Seven or watching Law and Order all the time with my mom and things like that. I've watched all of those types of shows and movies and stuff like that growing up, that my mind has been finely tuned to try and see all of the angles while the story is moving along to catch any twist or turn so I can be like, that's what's going on. When the first Saw movie came out, that twist at the end shocked the shit out of me. I was like, what? Are you no, you're lying. No, you're lying. But that completely shocked me. The second and the third films weren't as good, but they were still enjoyable. I still really enjoyed them. By like the fourth one, I started to check out. Like I think by the fourth one, I checked out, and I don't think I ever watched another one after that because I was just kind of like, it kind of ran its course. I've kind of fallen out of love with this film franchise, and I think they were just trying to milk it at that point. But this franchise, I mean, the first movie came out, what was it, 2002, was it? 2000, I don't know. It doesn't say here. But it came out a long time ago, early 2000s. But it's now being said that the Saw franchise, their rights are now acquired by Blumhouse. And the original creators are set to return. So Blumhouse has officially acquired the rights to Saw, as announced by Fangoria. This move marks a major shift for the series, as well as homecoming for its original creators, James Wan and Lee Whannell. The acquisition follows Blumhouse merger with Wan's Atomic Monster, bringing the Saw co-creators back into the fold for the first time in years. While Lionsgate will retain a stake in the property and will continue to handle distribution, creative control now appears to rest largely with Blumhouse, however you want to say it, and Atomic Monster. Content Partners also acquired a stake in existing library, and longtime producer Mark Berg retains a portion as well. So there was originally going to be a Saw 9 that was supposed to come out this year, but earlier this year it was quietly shelved, all that kind of stuff. And this is probably why. I'm hoping that now that it's moving to Blumhouse, whatever you want to call it, that they're going to get back to what made this series so good. Getting back to the original creators, James Wan, Lee Whannell. I think there's a good chance that happens. Blumhouse has been not like hit or miss, but they have had more hits than misses. I enjoyed parts of the Halloween series when they redid the Halloween series. Not all of it. Like the last one was horrendous, but I'm excited about this. And it takes a lot to get me excited about a horror film. And I'm excited about this. So we'll see. We'll see how it turns out. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say in the comments below. Donovan doesn't like Blumhouse. I'm guessing it has something to do with AI. That's just what I'm going to go with, Donovan. It's always AI, right? Critic Chris says I didn't get into the Saw movies. Bass Reeves, Slav, have you seen the Weapons trailer? Looks like a good horror flick. Again, I'm not a big horror fan, but I have seen the Weapons trailer, and I am curious to see what that's all about. I am curious about that. It looks more like a thriller than a horror film. See, I think to me, there's a difference between horror and thrillers. That to me looks more like a thriller, but I don't know. Maybe it is more horror. I don't know. Where are we at? Jalen Harris. Hello, Jalen. How are you? Not a lot of people talking about Saw here. Okay. Yeah, you guys aren't talking too much about that. All right. The next thing I want to talk about, which I did not pull up, but I do want to talk about this right here. That's not what I wanted to do. What the heck? I can't type. There we go. So, Denis Villeneuve has been tapped to direct the next 007. So this is kind of exciting, okay? Now, for me, I am a huge Bond fan. I've talked about this in the past. But I've never sat there and said, you know, I care who directs James Bond. The only time I've ever really known who's directed a James Bond movie was The Last Couple with Daniel Craig. Besides that, I've never known who's directed any James Bond movie. Because to me, that wasn't the beauty. That wasn't what mattered to me when it came to a James Bond film. Now, the fact that Denis Villeneuve is going to be making a James Bond movie, that is exciting. That's enticing. Look, he's a very, very good filmmaker. I'm not a big fan of his Sicario films, but I mean, you got Arrival, you got Dune, Blade Runner. I loved Blade Runner. I mean, you have movies that he's made that are fantastic, and he is a auteur of film. But when I sit there and I say, okay, Amazon, MGM, why are you dropping so much money and dropping to get a filmmaker like him for a Bond film? Because that's the question. It's sort of like, a lot of people have been wanting Christopher Nolan to do a Bond movie. All right. And don't get me wrong, I'm a huge Christopher Nolan fan, and that'd be great to see Christopher Nolan do a Bond movie. But you don't get Christopher Nolan to do a Bond movie because Christopher Nolan does a certain type of film. His films are written and directed by him, typically written in tandem with him and his brother. Sometimes they get a third writer in there, sometimes. And there's always some kind of weird quirkiness to the script. James Bond films, 007 films, aren't like that. So I've always thought, like, while I would love to see a Nolan Bond film, would it really be a Bond film? Because that's not what a Bond movie is. Now, Denis Villeneuve, he's expanded. He's much broader in his directing and his filmmaking, I should say. I mean, from Sicario to Blade Runner to Dune to Arrival, I mean, all of those movies are different types of movies in very different ways. From, a very, very action-heavy Sicario to Arrival, which is very personal, like an alien type of movie, like not alien, but like a science fiction type of movie, but on a personal level. You got Blade Runner, which is like very, very sci-fi. And then you have Dune, which is more space operatic. I mean, you take a look at his movies that he's made. He's made so many different types of movies that I could sit there and say, yeah, he can definitely make a Bond movie that's going to feel like a Bond movie. But why him? Because you can get anybody to make a Bond movie. So what's he going to bring to this movie that's going to be so much different than what any other director would make? But then you sit there and start to think about it. It's like, okay, what is it? What else are you going to do for this franchise? Like, first off, we don't know what the direction is for this franchise. Like, first off, we know Denis is going to come in and do this first movie. Are they planning on doing 3 movies, 4 movies, 5 movies with him? Like, we don't know all of that yet. But they need to get a Bond. And let's say they just get any Joe Schmo off the street. Let's say they get, I don't know, Joe Schmo off the street to play Bond. Okay? Like, that nobody's going to care about who that is. And that would happen if you have just some no-name director. Like Daniel Craig. When Daniel Craig got cast as Bond, raise your hand if you knew who Daniel Craig was. I didn't. When they cast Daniel Craig, I was like, why are they getting some blonde hair, blue eye guy as Bond? He's so skinny and he looks a little more gruff. Like, I don't know if he's going to be Bond. Like, he's going to be a good Bond. And then I went and watched, what was it called? I can't remember. There was a movie. I could see the box, the DVD box, leather. I don't know. But I remember watching that movie. And I was like, okay, I can see the vision now. But he was an unknown. But now with someone like Denis directing this, now you have your pick of nearly any actor out there. Almost every single actor is going to be like, I'll work with Denis. And they're going to throw their hat in a ring. So their casting pool is going to be so much larger for this movie, which is fantastic and exciting. So I'm excited about this, but I'm not overly excited about it. Like, I know some people are like over the moon about this, but to me, it's like, this is a Bond movie. This isn't Dune. This isn't Arrival. This isn't Blade Runner. This is a Bond movie. There's groundedness to this. This is something that Now, they could do something crazy with it and do something new and fresh and bold, and I'd be all for it. But as of right now, I don't see the vision. I'm cool with Denis directing, and I can see why they would do that to get some actors. But besides that, I don't know. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. Though. I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments below. All right. Bass Reeves, you're talking about DC stuff. Trayvon says Martin Campbell was the first Bond director with huge notoriety, in my opinion. GoldenEye, Mask of Zorro, and Casino Royale. Anyone? Funny guy, 9,000. Denis is more of a sci-fi director for sure. He would make a dope Star Wars movie. You're probably not wrong on that. Trayvon says, if this amount of attention is being had for the 007 director, then imagine how much more will be had for who's playing Bond. It's really weird what's happened to the Bond franchise lately. Like, this never was a thing. Like it's always been a thing, like, who's going to be the next Bond? That's always been a thing. Like, I remember even as a kid, when they cast Pierce Brosnan, like, that was big news. Like, Pierce Brosnan is the next James Bond. Like, that was big news. And then Daniel Craig, that was big news. But, like, something seems like it's, like, things are bigger with Bond right now. It's really weird. Like, I don't know why. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm a big Bond fan. I just don't know why. Bass Reeves asks, if Superman turns out to be Shazam 2 or Flash, will you be upset? Well, no. I enjoyed Flash. The CGI was crap, and I can already tell that the Superman CGI is way better than Flash. So if the story is as good or better than the Flash, which it already seems like it's going to be better, and the CGI is already better, so it's not going to be like the Flash, but I wouldn't be upset. In Shazam 2, I didn't hate Shazam 2. I didn't love Shazam 2. It wasn't as good as the first one, but I didn't hate it. Would I be upset? No. Would I be disappointed? Maybe. Disappointed, but I know it's not going to be on the level of those. I know it's going to surpass that just by what we've seen and what we've heard. So I'm not worried about it. All right. Next story. Oh, jeez. Come on. What are we doing here? Michael Bay reportedly returning for new Transformers movie. Why? Now, this coming from Screen Rant says Michael Bay is returning to the Transformers franchise as he reportedly has a new movie in development that he plans to direct. Bay shepherded the live-action movie franchise based on Hasbro's iconic toy line to the big screen in 2007 and directed 5 movies overall in his initial tenure. This era for Transformers was wildly successful as Michael Bay's movies grossed $4.3 billion. But unfavorable critic responses and a franchise low $605 million total with $605 million total with Transformers: The Last Night, which led Paramount to make changes. The franchise rebooted and started to find critical success, yet that came amid box office totals continuing to slide. Okay, I'm not going to stop there. This is coming from Puck News, by the way, technically, so it's take it with a grain of salt, but. I'll give him this. The first Transformers was enjoyable. I'll give him that. I had a lot of fun with the first Transformers film back in 2007. It was a lot of fun. The second one started to fall off quite a bit. The third one, it started to become unwatchable. It really did. After that third one, they were pretty much unwatchable. They were. It was just cookie cutter. It didn't. Was Michael Bay even on set directing those movies? Like at that point, it was just like, what is this stuff? So the first one, a lot of fun. Second one, after that, unwatchable. I get, and we just talked about this with Jurassic World. These studios want to push out these movies to just get money. They don't care about the story. They don't care about the success of a you know artistic integrity, that kind of thing. They don't care if it's going to be good for the audience. All they care about is, oh, the IP, it's Transformers. People are going to go see that. You know what? Throw Michael Bay's name on there, and they're definitely going to go see it again. That's all they care about. That's all they care about. Transformers, that Bumblebee movie was fantastic. It was a lot of fun. They should have continued that. They should have built off of that and just built from there, because that movie was good. That was the best Transformers we had since the first one. And they should have built from there, and they didn't. Then they went back, turned around, and they're like, let's make this animated one, Transformers 1. And it did really well, but critically, I should say. But no, instead of continuing that way, nope, let's bring Michael Bay back. Look, I'm not saying that Michael Bay is a bad filmmaker. Look, I'll be the first to tell you, I love The Rock. I love Bad Boys. I love some of his movies. Like most of his movies I love. I mean, Michael Bay, he is an action movie genius. He just knows how to make a fun action movie. Okay? He does. So I'm all for watching a Michael Bay movie. But his Transformer films kind of dropped off. They really did. They really did. So I don't think this is a really good one. I am not optimistic prime here. I'm not optimistic prime at all. I am not for this in any way, shape, or form. I think they should go a different direction. I think that, they should just go back to the drawing board. I don't see, this is not a franchise that you can't just, at this point in time, we're 20 years since the first one, just reboot. This is a franchise that you could easily just scrap everything and reboot, start fresh, get a new team of writers, a new team of developers and filmmakers in there, and reboot and start fresh and new. I think that would be the best move here. Give us something new and fresh. Now, people are saying, well, what if you bring back Shia LaBeouf and Megan Fox and all those people, Josh Duhamel, and then combine them with Marky Mark and stuff like that? Okay, yeah, that'll bring in maybe $100 million. But it's not going to give you the big money that you want. So to me, it is what it is. I don't think this is the way to go, but they're going to do it anyway. First off, Shia LaBeouf, sure. We haven't seen him. What's he been up to? I don't know. Is he still crazy? I don't know. Megan Fox, I'd rather not see her on screen anywhere at this point in time. But honestly, I don't know. I want to know what you guys think, though. What do you guys think in the comments? Let me know what you guys think. Is this the right move? Is this the wrong move? Let me know your thoughts. All right. What are we saying over here? Critic Chris says Bay overdid the sexual humor. People pointed out he did do that. There was some racist stuff in the second one as well, if I'm not mistaken. Bass Reeve says Michael Bay movies gross $6 billion worldwide. It's true. Can't deny that. You're not wrong. Watcher says Dark of the Moon is goated. I'm just saying. Maybe. If you say so. KO, what's up, Slav? What's up, everyone? What's going on, KO? I don't know how people like those other movies. I don't get it. I see Critic Chris says, I like Dark of the Moon more than Revenge of the Fallen. Trevon says, remember, Bumblebee was written by Christina Hodson. Why is that significant? I don't know. Is there a reason why that's significant, Trevon? I'm sorry. The Funny Guy 9000 says, Dominion made money, so what? The movie is still bad. Exactly. Now, when you talk about movies making $6 billion, movies can still make money and be bad. We see it all the time. All the time. Trayvon says, it's why I personally don't hold Birds of Prey, Batgirl, and The Flash against her. How much studio changes were made those movies behind closed doors? Question mark. Oh, I see now. The Watcher says, I would love if Shia came back and Megan. They were the best human characters in my opinion. Jalen Harris says, wrong move. I don't care what anyone says. Those movies were ass. Trayvon says, Shia LaBeouf and his career fascinates me to no end. Orange Fury says, do something new, create a good story. I agree. Jalen says, we could have had a Transformers 1 sequel, but no, we're back to this garbage. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Exactly. Watcher, I like base sexy humor unapologetically. Baby, come back. All right. One more story before we get into another thing here. This one is interesting. People are complaining that, or not complaining, people are pointing out an article from the Hollywood Reporter's Heat Vision that Hollywood Reporter believes that James Gunn doesn't actually have a writer for the Brave and the Bold movie. They say, you guys can stop asking James Gunn about this now. Batman Part 2 script is in. Filmmaker Matt Reeves revealed that he and co-writer Mattson Tomlin have turned in the draft, sharing an image Friday of them with the script. But you can ask Gunn about who's writing the Brave and the Bold movie because we're not convinced there is one. So people have taken this and said, we don't think that anybody's actually writing Brave and the Bold. We don't think there is a writer, blah, blah, blah. And now people are trying to twist this from Hollywood Reporter into a negative. Now, I've seen some people actually believe that Drew Goddard could be the writer for The Brave and the Bold. I think that is a really interesting call. And James Gunn just name dropped Drew Goddard the other day in one of his interviews for Superman as someone that he was listening to in the editing process of Superman. So keep that in mind. It's a very interesting, very, very interesting thing. Keep that in mind. But yeah, this is ridiculous. I think people need to just calm down. This whole Batman stuff is just it's giving me a headache at this point. It really is. It really is. Anyways. All right. Next thing I want to talk about. Superman. Real quick. The good and the bad that can come with Superman. Okay. I want to talk about some things that is the good and the bad. Now, the good and the bad. Now, what do I mean? So Superman comes out in a little more than a week. And obviously there's been a lot of back and forth about how this can hurt DC and movies and blah, 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 blah. But honestly, I think this is going to do a lot of good for DC specifically, and comic book movies even. So I'm going to go through a few good things and a few bad things that I see. Now, this isn't encapsulating everything, but I think that these are the main good and bad things that could or could not impact DC and movies. Okay? Comic book movies, to be exact. So the first thing I want to say is the good. So first and foremost, this is a fresh start. It's a new beginning. This is very important to recognize that this is a good thing for DC. All right. At this point, I think the argument that this is going to be confusing because he didn't start brand new and get new characters and new actors and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. I think that argument's gone for the most part. I think we can officially say people are aware that Henry Cavill's gone, that there's a new Superman, that this is a new universe. I think we all of us can accept that. I think the general audience is aware of that now. And because of that, this fresh start is a good thing. It's a new beginning. It's something that's really going to rev up the engines for a new franchise. And this is exciting. Truly exciting. This is truly the start of a universe. Whereas Man of Steel was not. Man of Steel was a good movie. It was again, you guys know, to me, it is a fantastic. It's my favorite comic book movie. I love that movie, but it never felt like the start of a universe. It felt like a Superman movie. Well, actually, it felt like a Clark Kent movie, but it felt like its own singular movie. It didn't really feel like it could be the start to anything else. This, they have all the intention of building out from here, and that's a good thing. So that's one. Next, refocus on the Superman lore that has been beloved for decades. Look, you can say what you want. You can say you loved Man of Steel, what Zack was doing or what. You can't deny that it was a departure from what Superman had been in the comics and in the public eye for decades. It was a departure. This is getting back to the roots. This is getting back to the lore. This is getting back to who Superman has been for decades. It's okay to do that. Sometimes you have to do a reset. Sometimes you have to get back to who a character is to reestablish who a character is. And this is a good thing. This is a very good thing. And I think the audience is going to truly appreciate that on a very, very special level. Then you have James Gunn. He loves comic books. This is a movie, and this movie is a love letter to comics. And he said that himself. He said, Guardians was a love letter to movies. Superman is a love letter to comics and his love for comics. And that's exciting to hear because that's something that when it comes to a filmmaker, you want them to truly love what they're making and truly put their heart and soul into it. And the fact that he's doing that with this film, that just excites me. And that is something to be excited about. And that's a good thing. And then you have an amazing cast and crew who are bringing these characters to life in ways that we have never witnessed before. From Nathan Fillion to Nicholas Hoult to David Cornsweet to Rachel Brosnahan. Edie Gathegi. There's so many of these cast members that are bringing these characters to life like they've been envisioned on the page, but never from the page to the screen like this. And that's exciting. That is truly exciting. So I'm excited for that. I think these are a lot of the good things that we could see come from this movie. And I think that a lot of people are kind of missing that. So many people are just blinded by all of this vitriol and this hate and this desire to say, well, the VFX looks bad here, and his spinny flying circle thing looks bad here, and oh man, his suit's wrinkly and stuff like that. It's like, look past that stuff. Look at what this movie is going to do and bring. Okay. But yes, there could be some negatives. There could be. James Gunn. Yes, he could also fall into the negative side, the bad side. While not as polarizing as another filmmaker by the name of Snyder, Gunn has been known to be slightly divisive when it comes to his films with hardcore fans. He can just sometimes be too jokey. He can change up the characters in a way that people don't like. He can do things like that people don't enjoy. I get it. So that can be a negative towards this movie. So that's something that we got to watch out for, when you go into this film. That's something that some people may call out. The fatigue when it comes to the genre. Yes, I know. Some people believe there's fatigue. Some people believe there isn't fatigue. Some people say that it's just poor writing. Some people say that no, there's just been too much. For me, honestly, I think it's just been a little of both. I think people are sick and tired and they're fatigued from bad superhero movies. I think if they get good superhero movies, they're more than happy to go and watch and support them. But they're fatigued from bad ones. Not superhero films as a whole, just bad films. So yeah, that could affect them because they could be afraid to go see and potentially see a bad movie. But James Gunn's a pretty famous director. So, and then this could be too little, too late for the DC brand. They could have waited too long to do this reboot, this new universe, this fresh take, and people just maybe, you know what? I don't even care anymore. And that could be something that happens, and that would be truly, truly unfortunate. So that's it, guys. Those are my takes on what the good and the bad from this Superman movie could be. Look, we're just a little more than a week away. I'm excited for this movie. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I know you're all excited about it. But I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about the good and the bad in the comments below. Watcher says there's no fatigue. It's bad movie fatigue. That's kind of what I just said. What else do we got here? Watcher says Bale was supposed to be Cavill's Batman. No, I don't know if that would have been better or worse. I liked Affleck's Batman. Lawrence Fear says strong character dynamics and moral complexity. Fresh, nostalgic, yet modern take on the DC universe. Critic Chris says, I felt DCEU got split in two because you had Snyder doing what he only wanted to do, the rest. Watcher says, I love that Superman has a crawl that's so badass. I don't know if it's a crawl. I heard that it's... No, I'm like this. Yes, there's words in the beginning of Superman. I'll just leave it at that. Trayvon says it would have been very hard to convey fresh new start beginning if Cavill was kept on as Superman. Very true. Hugo Millie, surely you can get a real image of Gunn. What do you mean? Those aren't real images of Gunn? Oh, come on. What are you talking about? They actually were real images of Gunn, but I was using not my computer to remove the background from him, and it kept messing up. So the only thing that I could use to remove a background on Gunn was ChatGPT. And every time I did it, it kind of did something wonky with his face and his hair. So that's why I did that. So they were real images of him. It's just the only thing that I could use was ChatGPT to remove the background because I wasn't using my computer. Because I use Pixelmator on my computer here on my MacBook, and I didn't have it handy to do that. So that's why it happened so that way. So apologies. I know it looked a little bit weird, but yes, Hugo Millie, they were real pictures. Just ChatGPT doing ChatGPT things when I remove the background. Lawrence Fury says, I think Superman's going to do well. I don't think the comedy will be that bad. People want to go to the movie and enjoy themselves. Yes. I agree. I do 100% agree. Critic Chris, I think Marvel Studios Disney's will be in panic mode if Gunn pulls Superman off big. I think they... maybe. I don't know. I don't think they'll be in panic mode because I think they're really confident about Doomsday. But the funny guy 9000 AI can be strange at times. Very true. It can be. The Watcher, Superman is going to be a movie that I feel if you mark it already, so then you have to see it with context to judge if you like it or not. Yes. Okay, guys. I got to get moving here. I got to get ready for the member stream. Thank you, everybody, for joining today. Make sure you hit that like button, hit subscribe, all that stuff. If you're not, if you are, thank you. Share it around. Tell all your friends and family, your aunts and uncles. This Thursday, I am not doing a Watchtower. What? I'm not doing a watch. Actually, I'm not. I am going to be over on Real Anarchy's channel on Thursday. But Friday, I will do a Watchtower. So Friday will be Watchtower. Thursday will be on Real Anarchy. Just keep that in mind. Okay, guys? But with all that said, guys, I will catch you all later.